Hello there, Mr. Chu here with Bear Algebra. I make videos so that I can help you with the algebra. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, give me a like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a link over here. So this is called Bear Algebra. That's what I call my algebra program, my curriculum, after my 12-year-old peekapoo named Bear. We're going to talk about factor by grouping. So an important part of factoring is to learn how to factor by grouping. And then a lot of the different, harder, more complex problems are set up using that same logic. So let's just look at an example. Whenever you're doing factor by grouping, you will have 4 different terms. And then you've got to factor out the GCF of two of them to find something in common. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the xy plus the 2x and we're going to find the GCF of those two. And then we're going to take the 8y and the 16 and find the GCF of those two. When you do that, in parentheses, you should have a common factor that you can pull out. So, if I look at xy and 2x, what do they both have? They both have an x. So I can reverse the distributive property and pull the x out. Well, what do you multiply by x to get xy? Y. And if you can't see that and it doesn't make sense to you, take your xy and divide it by x. And look what happens. X over x is 1 and 1 times y is y. Then what do you multiply by x to get 2x? That's 2. If you can't see that, then take your 2x, divide it by x, and x over x is 1 and 1 times 2 is 2. So in my left parentheses, I have x times parentheses y plus 2. Now I'm going to do the same thing to this one. So it may not be as obvious to you, but I can divide them both by 8. What do you multiply 8 to get 8y? Why? Because remember, I've got to have this same thing in parentheses here in order to factor by grouping. And then what do you multiply by 8 to get 16? 2. If you struggle seeing that, you can put your ay, divide it by 8. 8 over 8 is 1. 1 times y is y. Take your 16, divide it by what you are factoring out, which is your 8. 16 divided by 8 is 2. Now, if you're still saying, yeah, but I don't see how you got that 8. So I taught in an earlier video that if I want to find the GCF of 8y and 16, I can take 8y and I can write it as a product of its primes. And the way we did that, we said that's 2 times 4, that's 2 times 2, and then there's a y there. Then we took the 16 and we did the same thing. 16 is 2 times 8, 8 is 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. So 16 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Then you circle what's in common. So the GCF, and I did an earlier video on this, 2 times 2 times 2, which equals 8. And that's how I got that 8 there. How did I get to y plus 2? It's what I didn't circle, y, and then 2, y plus 2. So after I have it at this point, I say, do I have anything in common in my left GCF and factored term and the right? I sure do. See how I got the same thing here? So I write that in parentheses. And if I take and multiply that by another parentheses, then I can take and say, all right, one way I can look at this, I can take this x times the y plus 2, and then I can divide it by the y plus 2. And look what happens. Y plus 2 over y plus 2 is 1, so I have an x here. Okay? If this has been divided out, this will be left. So now this will be divided out, what will be left? Some people can immediately say that is an 8. If you can't see that, then you need to just write this whole thing out and divide it by whatever we're factoring out here, and that cancels. So my answer to this, it equals this factored out. So xy plus 2x plus 8y plus 16 equals parentheses y plus 2 times parentheses x plus 8. All right, so now we should be able to do example 2 just a little bit quicker. So I'm going to take my first 2 and see if I can factor them and then have something in common to pull out. All right, pretty obvious I've got a y here. What do you multiply by y to get xy? Simply an x. Minus, what do you multiply by y to get 7y? A 7. And I'm hoping I get an x minus 7 over here. If not, I'm going to have to either do something or I have the wrong 2 grouped together. And then what can I divide both 7x and 49 by? 7. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times minus 7. Well, what do you know? I got the same thing. That's your hint. So once I see that I've got the same thing, I pull it out. And if I divide this side by x minus 7, see how the x minus 7's cancel? And I have y plus 7. Now, if I were wanting to check this, I would either multiply this out using the distributive property or FOIL and see if I could get my original back here. So, this factored 2 binomials equals this polynomial up here. They're the same thing. All right, so as I usually do in my videos, I do 2 examples and then I give you a challenge problem or 2. Make sure if this is helpful, give me a thumbs up and like it. Make sure you subscribe down here to my YouTube channel, and I'll put these challenge problems up here on the board now. Challenge problems. Factor by grouping. Challenge 1. xy minus 5x plus 4y minus 20. You're breaking it into the 2 parentheses as factors. It's called factor by grouping. Challenge 2. ab minus 2a plus 5b minus 10. So, write those down. Pause this video. Work them out. See if you think you got them right. And then when you start the video again toward the end, there'll be a link up here which will be these problems worked. You can check and immediately see if it helped you or not. And down here will be the other Chapter 8, Unit 8 lessons. So, I'm Mr. Chu. This is Bare Algebra. Watch my videos and know that Mr. Chu wants to help you learn the algebra. See you next time.